Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Pillow Talk with me. Um, if you hear me, if suddenly the recording, like the audio of the video recording, sounds really weird or just sounds like really choppy, it's probably because I paused the recording in the middle because I need to blow my nose because Girly has the flu right now. Luckily, it's not COVID. Like, it's not COVID. I have the flu right now, so I might be blowing my nose or something. That's also why I probably sound quieter than usual because it's sniffles, sniffles. But yeah, so today we're going to be talking about adult friendships. So we're going to be talking about kind of like how to make friends as an adult, how how to maintain friendships as an adult, as well as like dealing with severed or ruined friendships from childhood. I don't really have that much experience with adulthood. My minimal experience, I don't really want to talk about it right now, but that's a different story. Hey, so yeah, and I guess like there have been quite a few things that have made me. There's quite a few things that made me want to talk about this, or like this has been on my mind recently. So I guess like for context, I used to be a part of two different groups, one at my church, one at like a society or a club at uni, and recently I've kind of quit both of them at the start of this year, which basically meant that like kind of two of my most routine like the group I saw them routine like every single week or even like multiple times a week. And now I don't really have that anymore. I'm not really a part of I'm a part of something now that I see people like once every month or once every 2 weeks, depending on what I choose to attend. Um, but the things that were I was a part of before, it was basically compulsory to attend every single week. So I had a lot of different friends. Oh, like I had a lot of different people that I would meet every single week, or a lot of different people that I would see like routinely, so you can like hang out, catch up in between things like in between meetings or after meetings, things like that. So it was super easy to have those friendships. I think it was kind of like that in high school as well, which I'll talk about later. Um, so and then now I don't really like I said I don't really have that. So there was a really difficult period time in my life a few months ago. And I'll talk about it more later as well. Um, Actually, no, I'll talk about it now. There's a period of time as well, a few months ago, where I was feeling really down as I saw my successor in the society, or I would see that people in the society, the new execs, they would be talking about it, and I feel like a lot of FOMO. It's like, oh, like even going back to uni was really difficult because I would do my class and then do my society stuff, but I don't really have that anymore. So that was really hard. I was getting FOMO from all the things I was seeing on social media. And in terms of the other thing I was a part of, I joined something else. And before in my church, before you join a new group, at least like the younger people ones, usually have to do this thing called a retreat, which is basically think school camp, but instead of fun, some of those like fun apples activities, it's more like reflection to reflect, oh, is this a type of group? Is this group the right thing for you at that time? And it was that week in particular was super difficult because it was kind of like the graduation or like the next the next stage of like I guess like you think about like your journey in the different groups that you're part of at the church. It's like the next one up from what I was a part of. So it was really difficult because it was basically two groups of people. There was a group of people who were already in the group last year, and a lot of them were people that led me before when I was super young. They led me before, so I kind of like was friends with them from like that. But because they were my leaders rather than like friends, we weren't. We also weren't really friends, if that makes sense. So that was really hard because they were all friends. They were like similar age. They all like led together, so they had that like working relationship, but also that like rapport or like the actual friendship because you hang out with each other after your events that you do together, things like that. And then there was another group of people they had never really joined like these type of groups before, but they all went on to this like volunteer missionary trip overseas. Like they just came back a few weeks before. So they already were really close as well from that. And I was just here like, I don't really know anyone. So that was kind of terrible because I felt like I wasn't alone, but I felt very lonely, if that makes sense. Um, so I guess like that was my big wake up call in terms of like making adult relationship or making relationships, friendships as an adult. And some when I've been consuming quite a lot of media recently. I've also kind of showed this as well, which is 2521, which is a Korean drama which talks it's kind of like coming of age, and it talks about lots of different things like relationship, love, determination, passion, things like that, but friendships as well. Like how do you maintain your friendships with people even after you've graduated high school? I think I'll talk about more of that later. I graduating high school. Um, so that kind of made me think about that a lot, which was really timely because I was going through my thing at the same time. And I like literally just yesterday finished what's her name? Sally Rooney. I think that's her name. Conversations with Friends. And it basically talks about how this person kind of navigates a friendship with this author and her husband and her like ex slash best friend. Um, it sounds really weird. It sounds really unappealing the way I'm describing, but it was an interesting book. I want to say it's good because I don't understand it, but it was a very thought provoking book. Yes. So that kind of like made me that those things have really made me think about it. Um, made me really think about adult relationships. So before I go too much of a ramble of what made me want to do an episode about adult relationships, I'm going to talk about my own journeys in terms of making and maintaining friendships in adulthood. And by adulthood, because mind you, I am quite young. This is post making and maintaining friendships like post high school kind of vibe. So I guess like the thing that I noticed about high school or high school friendships is that high school friendships are so convenient that you make as a child because, like I said, like basically the reason why I'm finding it so difficult with my adult relationships right now is because in high school or you have those like in high school you have those like routine touch like you see each other every single day, so it's like you're kind of friends by convenience, I think. Like I look back to a lot of my high school friendships, and I think a lot of them were friendships of convenience because they were quite, I want to say that they were shallow relationships. We didn't really hang out with each other outside of school. Maybe that's because their parents were super strict. But even then, like some of them like still hung out like one on one or like one, two, like small groups. Um, so they I'm gonna go to just bring back all my high school trauma when it comes to friendships. Anyways, so you kind of see, I kind of friends by convenience, and then in like once you've graduated high school, you don't unless like you join like I said like a society or like some sort of thing where you see each other every single week or see each other very routinely. You don't really have that, so it's kind of you're like they're kind of fend for yourself. You just like poof, kind of it's you don't really have that mechanism or that way to develop those relationships with people like yeah develop those relationships with people because not really it's really hard to see the same people routinely. That's what I'm trying to say. I guess like in my like post high school, um, some of the difficulties that I had were like finding spaces or places to meet people, like seeing the same people every single time. And I was like I said, I was really lucky that I joined a indie society where I was able to do that. And well, yeah, where I was able to do that. And a lot of the friendships that I have now that I made in my post high school stage, a lot of the majority of them I was actually do come from that club that I was a part of. And I think one of the really interesting things was someone in that club told me that the way that you develop close relationships is by working with people because you're really vulnerable with each other because you really want to try hard and you really want to achieve, but you also like working towards this like really big goal and go through all like the highs and the lows together. And by this, like it can be a group assignment, but I don't find group assignments particularly like it has to be something that I think you're emotionally invested in. Because group assignments. I've done so many group assignments, and do I talk to these people now? Not really. But the people that I do talk to, others like that we did events together or that we were in a team together because we were really emotionally invested in what we were doing. And as a result, like I said, we were vulnerable to each other, and because of that, we're still, even though we don't see each other as often as we used to, we still do keep in contact with each other. But yeah, some other ways I made friends was from class or like uni. There's uni group chats, but I would say they're pretty like short lived or like shallow. Like for example, um, there's this girl, and coincidentally, we do the same 4 subjects, but not only that, we're in the same tutorials for every single one. And even though we see each other like for all of our classes, I wouldn't say we're not really friends, but we're not exactly friends either. Like we're friendly in class, things like that, but we don't really study with each other in between classes or after classes. We don't hang out. We don't really message each other. Even if it's about uni, we don't really message each other. So yeah, I'm not really too sure about that. There's this another girl though. She's in one of my classes. I think I'm gonna try become friends with her because we studied a little bit together. We've talked to each other quite a bit. So I think I'm gonna try. I'm gonna try hang out with her because she seems really cool. But yeah, that's one way. I know one of my closest friends now that I've made. Coincidentally, her ex boyfriend, we were in the same team together, and then we found out we were in the same class, and yeah, now we're really close friends. I also made some friends at church, like I said, but also as well as work. But it's kind of weird because I work at I wouldn't say where I work. I kind of have a corporate job now, just for a short term. But it's kind of weird because a lot of the people that I work with, they're pretty old. Not all of us, but some of them have children that just even children in general. Not judging anyone who has children at a young age, but they have like pretty grown up children. And some of them have children that are already like older than me. So it's kind of hard to like relate to them, become friends with them. And it's kind of weird in the corporate setting, I would say, to call someone your friend because for me, definition, especially at this age, definition of friend is like someone I would like hang out with outside of whatever obligatory touch point that we met at. But I wouldn't say I would hang out with these people outside of work. I don't know. And I remember as well around the same time I was struggling, we had a big team lunch, and it was really hard because I couldn't really join in any of the conversations because all the topics they were talking about, basically like children, like how like your house or other things like that, they were all things that I couldn't relate to because I had not experienced like any of them. So that was another thing that was really hard. But yeah, that's kind of my experience with making friends as an adult. And in terms of like difficulties I found in or like my journey in terms of maintaining friendships, I think some of the biggest like issues that I've had is or like I would say like 5 issues, 5 top issues. Number one is like social battery. I don't have like honestly, I feel like especially after high school, or not especially after high school, after COVID, after being by yourself for like or being at home for months on end, I feel like my ability, even after we got out of lockdown, my ability to hang out with people or like socialize with people has went down so much. I remember, um, after the first lockdown, I think, when we went back to school for a few weeks, I would come home and I would just be so tired from being around people like the entire day that I would just like take naps every day after school. That's how bad it was. I would say my social battery isn't the same as it used to be, but it's still like I don't go home and nap after socializing with people. That's one factor. Next thing is time and priorities. There's a lot of things that we have to do. There's a lot of things that we prioritize. Sometimes friendships just go on the wayside because it's not. It's not that it's not deemed as something important, but it's just a thing that we can put aside, I guess, more easily. Next is conflicting schedules. I don't really say anything anymore about that. Next, I think it's especially going from this high school to uni, but it's like people moving away, or maybe that's you moving away, from your old friends or your high school. I have a few like really close childhood friends. They all moved to different states, so I haven't really seen them in a while. Actually, one of them is coming back to visit next week. I think I'm seeing them, and then another one. I think they're here now. Honestly, I have no idea. But yeah, people are moving away, so it's really hard to keep in contact with them. Next is people, which includes myself, are bad at reaching out. I don't know why, but people just like feel super awkward at like reaching out to an old friend that they haven't seen in a while. They, maybe it's like your bias of yourself. I don't know, the spotlight effect, I think is what it's called, where you think, where like you're basically the main character of your own story, and you think everyone's thinking about you when really no one's not thinking about you. But maybe we think that, I don't know, like people are going to think we're weird for reaching out to someone that we haven't heard of, heard from, or talked to in a while. Maybe it's that. I have no idea. But yeah, I think it's that. Yeah, those are my 5 reasons, or like five, yeah, 5 things I noticed when it comes to finding like difficulties in maintaining friendships. Some of the things I've actively done in terms of like maintaining my friendships. This is more so I started this year actually. Um, and this year and a bit of last year as well. But one of the things is like a friend's bucket list. So um, last year in like February and then again in around like June, July, I made a list of people that I wanted to hang out with and had like a goal like by the end of this period, I want to make sure that I've hung out with all of these different people, and it kind of just serves as accountability for me to reach out to different people, for me to talk to different people and just like catch up with people, because they are like they were and they still are important people in my life, and I don't want to not see them to the point where we're not really friends anymore, or we don't have that connection anymore. So just kind of a way for me to maintain a connection, and I don't really feel super awkward reaching out to them as well about it. Maybe there's someone there that I put down that I'm like pretty uncomfortable reaching out to. Not uncomfortable sensing the person, but uncomfortable is like what I talked about. It's like I feel awkward reaching out because it's been so long since we've talked to each other. I like that. Next is combining, like ticking things off my bucket list with catching up with people. So if you didn't know, I made as a part of my 2023 goals, I made a bucket list of things that I wanted to achieve or tick off, and I'm asking people to tick them off with me. So for example, one of them is I want to watch like I want to go strip club. It's so awkward to put online. I really want to go to strip club just because I'm very curious about it. Like you see in the movies, and I just want to see what it's all about. And then, like I need to do that again. So I've asked my friends, some girls that I haven't seen in a little while, and I want to stay in contact with if they want to watch the Magic Men show with me. So we're gonna be doing that. We're gonna be doing that together, which is kind of exciting, kind of wild, but it kind of helps you, achieve what two goals. Two what's the saying? Kill kill two birds with one stone. Take something off your bucket list and you catch up with people. Haven't seen in a while. Great. Next is combining things like activities with like meeting people. So for example, one of the things I really want to get into or get back into doing this year was exercise. And one of the things I really want to get back into as well was dance, because I used to dance a lot in high school, but especially once I got into adult university, that wasn't something that I really wanted to do, especially given like my experience in high school was a lot of competitive dance. And I was like, oh, I don't really want to do that anymore. And like I just wasn't enjoying dance, so I stepped away from it. But I want to go back to it, so I started to dance class with my friend, one of my really close friends, and we for past like few months, like every like every week or every 2 weeks we'll do some dance classes together. Also, because there was also a large time in between our last class of the day and a dance class, it also gave us an opportunity to study together and go out for a meal together. And it was really good to see each other, really good to catch up, and you know, like I said, kill two birds with one stone. Because we got to study, we got to exercise, we got to catch up. It was really great, and it was a way for us to see each other routinely as well. Um, but yeah, that was like my experience with maintaining friendships. I think I was able to um like usually I'm able to combat there's like 5 different key issues that I found when it comes to maintaining friendships, especially like the time and priorities. I can combine priorities together. That was really great. Um, but yeah, next is dealing with 7 or like ruining friendships from when you were younger. And I think this is something that I'm still dealing with. I kind of this. I'll talk about it and then we'll go from there. So recently I saw a video on TikTok where someone had a severed relationship or friendship with someone and they had reconnected because one of them was getting married and then they invited the other person to their wedding because they wanted with a note attached to the invitation to like reunite, rekindle, and resolve the issues before the wedding because they meant a lot to each other at that time when they were still friends and they wanted them to be a part of that really big and special moment of their life. And in the video, it showed that they got together, they resolved their issues, and they kind of like became friends as if like nothing had happened, which I think was really great. It was really good to see, and it kind of got me thinking about reaching out to my ex best friends in high school. We had a really bad like friendship breakup, I would say, in the middle of lockdown. Um, and I still I still do think about them quite a bit sometimes, like time to time, and something reminds me of them, like like, I wonder how they're doing, things like that. And sometimes I do think that I want to. I miss the friendship that we had. I miss them as a person as well. I want to rekindle the friendship, but right now, to be honest, I don't have the courage to do that yet because we really did hurt each other at the time. But potentially in the future, it's something I might want to do. I don't know why I brought this up, but maybe think about those people from the past. Maybe it's time to put that all behind you. And if you really care about them, and they really cared about you, you mean a lot to each other. You're both willing to put past like history behind you. Maybe it's worth to rekindle that reconnect. But yeah, some of the things that I guess like I see a lot on Reddit, on like university Reddits. So I thought I would just address them like a Q&A type style. Not that anyone's sending me the Q&As, but I really like these um growing with the Flow podcast. Who does that? Oh, what's her name? Naina's podcast. She talks about a topic, her own experience, and she does a Q&A thing at the end, which I really like. I don't have any enough listeners to be able to do that, but I'm gonna do my own because I can do whatever I want. So I have 3 questions that I'm gonna answer. So yeah, let's go. Let's get into it. So the first question is, how do I make friends as an adult? I think, like I said, the best way, like kind of what I talked about, the best way I think to make friends is to develop a routine or do something routinely so that you get to see people regularly, and for me I think that's how I kind of start to develop that friendships by convenience and then develop it further to a actual friendship because you enjoy the person, you want to see them, they want to see you too. So some of the things that I noted down were the interest groups, like you join a club. If you're in uni, also if you're not in uni, you can still join some sort of club. There's a lot of different groups out there that meet regularly, and I'm sure you'll be able to find one that you know where your interests will match. And I find that especially meeting people with the similar interests is a really good conversation starter. It really breaks down the ice and breaks down the barriers a lot more easily. Next is doing activities consistently. So if, like I said, I joined dance studio. Well, I didn't join dance studio. I just pay classes, and kind of what I saw throughout the times I was there was that a lot of the regulars who were there, they because they see people that go to the studio like and they take the same classes together quite regularly. Because of that, they become friends over a period of time. So that seems really cool. And even one of my friends, she signed up to a Pilates place, and because she sees people quite regularly, she's developed a friendship with them as well. I think this is really good as well. Like I said, you get to see them regularly, get similar interests. Just mean a different way, I guess. Next is volunteering. So for example, I do it at my church. If you're not religious, that's fine too. There's a lot of different ways, a lot of different places as well where you can do volunteering work that can also align to your own passions, your own interests as well. I think that's a really great way because you're spending time with people quite regularly, quite intimate because you're working with them. Like I said, working with people when you're emotionally invested is a great way to develop close relationships with people. I think that's really good as well. But yeah, that's my answer to how you can make friends as an adult. Next is how do you maintain friendships as an adult? I had already talked about my own experiences, but I think it's still good advice. Is like don't be afraid to reach out and initiate. People don't really care if you about you reaching out. Like for example, I started watching Gilmore Girls very recently because this girl from high school, I remember she used to watch and post Gilmore Girls all the time on her stories on Instagram, and I just wanted to share someone about like meeting. I thought Dean was so cute in one of the scene, and I was like, I just wanted to share with someone, but I didn't know who watched Gilmore Girls except this person, so I just reached out to them, and we had this amazing conversation about Gilmore Girls, other stuff in life, and it was really great. Next is combine routine activities with catch ups. Um, Depending on what routines you want to do or like what you want to do, and that's really great. I also saw this post, can't remember what it was, but there was a study where it showed where it was like these people they were given they got dropped off somewhere on the hill, and they were told that they had the goal of climbing or like hiking this really tall mountain, and it showed that people who were close, like friendships close, they perceived the hill or the mountain to not be as steep, or like the goal was a lot more manageable compared to people who didn't have anyone they knew or didn't form friendships with people. They thought the goal was really unachievable and really difficult. So that can also help you achieve your goals if that's something that you're really wanting to do. Next is dedicate specific times in your week to meet with people. This kind of combats like one of the social battery issues in terms of maintaining friendships, as well as like the time, priorities, and conflicting schedules. Because you have this set time, you kind of dedicate yourself to meeting with people, as well as how can I say, dedicating yourself to meeting with people and to like make sure your social battery is charged so that you're able to like have a quality time with these people. Um, but yeah, also just making sure your schedules don't conflict or like they actually prioritize in the friendship. I think that's probably the most important part. That you're not just putting it to the wayside. But I think as well, one thing you do have to consider is like re- balancing your own like self worth or respect, those quality of relationships, with quantity of relationships and reaching out. Because obviously, while we do want to have like a, quite a few friends from different like areas of our life or who serve different purposes, we want to make sure that we do have quality we want to have quality friendships, not just quantity of friendships, because that's not going to be very good for our own selves. I don't know what the word I was looking for or looking for. I don't know. I'll think of it right now, but I'm still of the very belief that quality over quantity. Next is something that I definitely experienced. You don't want to always be the one initiating and like feeling bad about always reaching out because you feel like oh you're not worthy because it's not or like the one other people reaching out to you or wanting to hang out with you isn't being reciprocated. This is something I even struggled with in high school. I was always the one um, in my friendship group who was initiating group hangouts. So I felt like, yeah, I kind of felt like, oh, it was very like friendship of convenience. Felt really bad about myself. I felt like, oh, do these people actually want to be friends with me? So if you find yourself feeling or thinking about that way about other people, you know what? It's okay. You don't have to be friends with everyone. Like people don't owe you anything. You don't owe people anything. So yeah, make sure you're balancing your own like self worth respect with that. Because I think that's something that is really hard. Um yeah, that can be something that's really hard, difficult to deal with. And you don't want to be compromising your own mental health just for this as well. Just to maintain a connection as well. Because in the long run that's not really worth it. Next, not next, well, next and final question is how do you develop a real and meaningful connection? I think this thing is like really hard, especially when it comes to university. There's a lot of these questions a lot of the times when people ask like how do I make friends at university, it's not more so like how do I meet people, but it's more so like how do I develop really meaningful connections because I don't feel they like they can really truly call someone their friend. I think there's something that's really difficult. I think as well, it's not more. I think how can I say this? I think this question is really hard because there's not one way to do it. There's no right way to do it. But it's kind of like how can you give yourself as many opportunities as you can to develop real and meaningful connections, but also meet people who could be potentials for those really meaningful connections. So I think going back to those previous two questions, like how do you make friends as an adult, that gives you like opportunities to meet new people. It also gives you opportunities to like I said, break down the ice, break down those barriers, and it's that one less thing to worry about, and you can just go straight into the also like developing those like meaningful or like deeper connections. And in terms of maintaining the friendships, it's like how can you think one of the most important things about developing really meaningful connections and like long lasting ones as well is like reaching out and spending time with people. Because although more time spent with someone doesn't exactly mean a deeper connection. Spending time with someone means that there's more opportunities for those real and meaningful moments to happen that result in real and meaningful and like deep connections as well. So I think that doesn't really answer the question, but I also think it answers the question in some way. I don't know what I'm saying, but let's just move on. I think the last thing in terms of that is like how do you like the way that you have conversations. I think small talk is a really bad way of I think everyone knows, but if you don't know, that's okay too. But small talk is a really bad way of creating those real meaningful connections because you're gonna have shallow conversations, you're gonna have like shallow connections or shallow friendships. Like yeah, there's really like deep, meaningful conversations, then you're going to have deep, meaningful connections. I think asking a lot of open ended questions. There's, if you're in a group setting, there's a, this was, uh, there's a game called We're Not Really Strangers. It's a card game. You can pay for it, but you can also search for it online. I know I used to use the Quizlet. I'm pretty sure that got taken down because of copyright. But there's also something called 36 Questions to Love. It doesn't have to be romantic love, it can be platonic love as well. I remember I used to do that with my friends in lockdown when we were bored. And that was pretty good as well to get to know each other more. So that could be something that you do. Or if you're not really into the um, that Q&A type style, I think just like in your conversations, like start with small talk and then like maybe find a way to make those questions like, oh, how was your day? And then like, oh, what did you do today? Things like that. How can you make that more open ended so you can ask more follow up questions, which will lead to, like I said, more of those like deeper conversations so you can have deeper connections. Um, but yeah, that is all everything I had today. I don't think um, have anything else to say about that. But I hope that this was useful to you. You found it entertaining. You felt um, you felt like you found someone who's very similar, and that you felt like seen or heard. I don't know, whatever you're getting out, whatever you wanted to get out of this. I hope you got it out, or I hope you got something out of it. Um, but if not, that's fine too. I enjoy talking to my laptop, which is fine as well. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your day, and I will see you in my next episode. Bye bye.